Hello everyone, I'm Shreya, a second year CS student from NITK Surathkal, and I welcome you all to day 2 of IEEE NITK's very own Women in Engineering Talk series around her world in 10 ways. In these sessions, we will be interacting and learning from some brilliant women from across the globe who have made their mark in various engineering fields. We get a glimpse into their journeys and learn some valuable insights that have helped them in their accomplishments. I'm really excited to announce our first speaker for today, Miss Aditi Chalisgaonkar. I hope I got your name right.
You
It's
got it perfect. Yeah.
okay. It's truly a pleasure to have you on this session with us. So after completing her BTech from NITK, Aditi went on to follow her passion for art, which blossomed into design. She did her master's in product and service design from Carnegie Mellon University. Aside from this, she also leads NITK Spectrum, working towards inclusivity. She has worked as a UX designer and furthered innovations aligned with design thinking that drive strategic growth. Currently, she is doing that as an experienced designer at Local Theory. Without any further ado, I hand it over to her to tell us more.
Hey Shreya, thank you so much. I love that intro because it was so true to somehow the things that I feel I was going through in terms of I followed some of my passions for art and all of that, and I'm really excited to be here. It's so amazing that these kind of events are happening at NITK. You know, I think the events for women in engineering have increased year over year, and especially now that everything's virtual and it's still going. It's so amazing. So kudos to all of you. Hats off. Good job.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And everyone who's joined, I see quite a few participants joining. Please feel free to turn on your video. This is I would love this to be kind of interactive and for us to just be as if we're all sitting in a room together and we're just chatting and talking. Um, I do have a set of PowerPoint slides, which you don't generally just have in a room when you're chatting and talking. But I thought it would be good to have something to, like visually show you. So that's why I've kind of made a bunch of slides. Um, and what I'm going to talk about today is I want to kind of talk about three things mainly. Just like a brief peek into some of the things I do, some of the projects I work on, um, and I then want to talk about sort of how I got there because to be, my BTech was NITK Triple E. I was in Trickle. And to go from there to, UX design, experience design, sometimes people kind of raise their eyebrows at me and ask me, how did you do that? Why did you do that? So I want to kind of give you all the sense of that journey. And I really want to give you the sense that essentially many of you will be where I am in about 4 years. And that means that I was where you currently are about 4 years ago. I graduated in 2016. So I was in exactly your same shoes 4 years ago. And so the journey I'm making, there is a bunch of hard work involved in all of that. But it's not a huge leap. And this is your future if you'd like for it to be your future. Right. So I want to show you that journey so that you can see really what it looks like. And then I want to talk a little bit about NITK Spectrum, which is an LGBTQ plus resource initiative that a friend and I started, and that a bunch of people have just leaped on and supercharged after we kind of gave it its starting point. And again, if there are things that any of you in the group are interested in doing, I want to give you the sense that you can do whatever you want to do, and anything is possible, and all of you are supremely capable. So yeah, I'm going to start. And feel free to, I'll probably you'll need to let me do screen sharing just for a second. Yeah, but at any point, if you all have any questions, put them in the chat. And I think I can see the chat while I'm presenting, I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah, so put them in the chat. I'll see them and I'll get to them. Uh, either straight that at that time or in just a little bit. And I'm going to leave some time in the end to talk to all of you and just hear from you what you're doing right now, what you hope to be doing, um, how things have been maybe in lockdown and stuff. So keep some food for conversation in the end. I'm just preparing you right now. So let me start off. I can share my screen. Um, okay, and can you all see my screen at the moment?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, perfect. Right. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to start just talking about myself, which I'll say I do love to do. So yeah, it's a fun topic. I like myself. So yeah, I'm Aditi. I'm an integrated innovator, which sounds like fancy words, but essentially I get to come up with ideas for new products or new services, um, and hopefully they are aligned with the objectives of my company that I'm working in. Um, and so yeah, this is part of it. I'm going to dive into that. First, really quickly, I want to say that you know just like me, there's a lot of other alumni, and alumni is the female plural of alumna, which I thought was really interesting. I googled it at one point, and there's a lot of us from NITK. All right. I thought about listing some out, and I realized I would be listing out basically all of my wingmates from NITK times because I'm a big fangirl of so many of the people who I went to college with, as I'm sure you will be of your college friends. But truly, there are so many other alumni from NITK who are doing really really cool things. And so get on LinkedIn, get on Instagram, get on Facebook if you use Facebook, um, TikTok if you and they use TikTok. And reach out. Oh, TikTok's banned in India. Sorry, no TikTok. But yeah, reach out to them, and people have been really great about responding. You'll see more of that in my journey. So yeah, it's not just me. um, there's a lot of female uh, alumni from NITK. Go reach out to them too. um, Okay, so with that kind of said, and I hope you'll keep it as a thread running. Let's dive into sort of what I do. So I build experiences for new products, new services. What does that mean now? Uh, think of any of the products and services you use today in your lives, right? Let's pick on like Instagram or TikTok. Uh, one has been around for a little while longer, one is more recent. And so you see that every day there are new things, new products and new services being introduced that people can either use, or if it's not something that they want, that people can ignore. Um, and so I get to work sort of on that side of things, in which I come up with ideas. And it's not just me, like in within my team, at local theory where I work, all of us together come up with ideas for new products and new services. And my role tends to be to build out that experience of what it actually looks like. And so here's a look at some of the projects that we've worked on. So I work at a retailer, right? So I work at a grocery store, I work at a shop, essentially. And my team has been part of a project in which we've put up these kind of digital displays at the edge of the shelf. Um, and this is an interesting concept, and I'll give you some context. Number one, in the US, people put the price is not printed on the product. The price is put on this paper label which like sits at the edge of the shelf. And so one of the things we need to show on our digital displays is the price of the product, because if you don't show that, no one will buy the product, and then everything goes downhill from there for the company. But along with the price of the product, we've also put some cool kinds of information on here on what is essentially a very oddly shaped TV at the edge of the shelf, right? It's kind of 2 inches high and 4 feet long, and it's kind of a TV which sits there. Um, and so we've been able to say, hey, here are the ratings and the reviews on this coffee maker that you're trying to buy. And we've tried to really think about the journey of a customer when they are in the store and they're shopping in that aisle. And this is something which I, as an experienced designer, have to get pretty obsessed with, right? Who is the customer? What's their journey? Why are they shopping there? How can we help them? How can we make their journey easier? And I've done this over a few different contexts in the store. So there's been coffee makers, as you see here. We've also done a similar experiment in the mattress section. And buying a mattress is different from buying a coffee maker. So I had to kind of think of those things differently. We've also done it in the section where you sell false nails and false eyelashes, um, of which I used neither. So it was a very interesting journey. And I didn't even use coffee makers. So it was an interesting journey to learn about people who buy coffee makers, people who use false nails, people who use false eyelashes, and that's also part of design and innovation, is that you don't build for necessarily yourself as the user. You build for someone else who's your user or your customer, and go from there. And this is a very recent project that we've done. I think I took this picture like either last night or a couple of nights ago. We've done some work in the electronics section, um, and I can talk a bit more about my work. So if you have any questions about that, I can definitely talk about it. Just put them in the chat, or unmute yourself and ask anything you'd like to ask, or save it up for the time at the end, which I hope we will still have, and we can chat about things. But now I want to talk about sort of my journey and how I got from electrical and electronics to design and innovation, because uh, I and the perspective I'm coming from here is when I was in final year, actually when I was in third year, right? I sort of realized that, hey, none of the options of what I can do right after NITK are the things that I want to do, right? So I could have gotten a job in sort of core electrical engineering or core electronics engineering. I could have gone into data analytics, for example. I could have maybe applied for an MBA and in a few years done an MBA. But these things by themselves were not the right fit for me. And they're great options. I know a lot of people going down these career paths, and they're doing some really fantastic things in those fields, but it wasn't the right fit for me. And so, and I think there's a lot of us who follow that whole, first you become an engineer, then you figure out what you want to really do in life. And I definitely live that stereotype. So I figured that, hey, what I really wanted to do in life was maybe not purely electrical and electronics engineering, even though parts of it were really great. And so I wanted to take you through the journey, like this kind of confusing journey of what happened and how it happened. Um, so yeah, as I said, the first thing was the realization hit me, that in about third year, I would say it hit me that, oh gosh, college is going to be over. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, because after this, there's like no specific defined path. You're not going to come back after fourth year for another semester. You got to figure something out. So that feeling of, oh crap, kind of hit me. And then there was the real question of, I know I don't want to do this stuff, but what is it I actually want to do, and how on earth do I figure this out? It was very confusing to me. But I think in retrospect, and it's not like I did this on purpose, it kind of happened. I tried lots of different things. And this is something I would recommend to anyone who's looking at switching career paths, or even, if you are in a career path you already like, it's always good to try out lots of different things, because um, if kind of you get into that mode in which you're just stuck thinking about, do I want to do this, is this a good fit for me, thinking isn't going to give you the answers, thinking isn't going to solve things, because in my experience, you have to go and do. you have to go and experience whatever it is that you think you might like, right? So here are some of the things that I tried, right? And a lot of many of these happened because I essentially had a lot of free time in college. Yes, I was in electrical, which is, it's a fairly difficult subject, but um, also, yeah, like, there was free time, especially in final year. The amount of free time just increases drastically. So I'll quickly go through some of these things. TPSA is the theory and practice of sensors and actuators. It's a course in the mechanical engineering department. Um, I didn't realize how fun it would be to just like tinker around with electronics and sensors and actuators and stuff. But it was really great. I so that and it was a super intensive course. It's taken by KVG sir in the mech department. He has very high standards, but I think it was an excellent experience, because because we got to do a project. And again, that goes back to, if we had just read books and looked at the theory, I don't think it would have been half as interesting or as impactful, or as decisive a factor in, helping me understand what it is I want to do. um, so that was kind of the TPSA course. I also did a bunch of painting, and I wish I'd included some of the pictures here. But I would like have these canvases in my room, and I would make oil paintings. I sold some to this place called Sip and Sup, which I feel like closed down. It's near college. It used to be in Suratkal, but I heard it closed down, so that's a bit of a pity. But you can check out my paintings on Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff later. Um, I was also part of NITK Racing in the marketing team. I was part of the LSD club. So overall, you can see that, I had a bunch of time on my hands, and I think that it was a good thing that I tried out a lot of other things. Um, the cadence and fractal analytics were kind of two internships that I did. So I went to Cadence first, and I learned about some of the software that people use for chip design. Um, that was my first internship, and I understood real quick that, hey, that's not what I want to do in life. Even though, again, lots of people doing lots of cool things, including lots of our alumni at Cadence who are doing cool things, but not for me. Because I think I felt I wanted to have more interaction to people and understand how my work affects people. So I thought, okay, why don't I do the second internship, which is at Fractal Analytics, which is, they look at data and analytics. They're an analytics consulting company. Um, and so I thought that, okay, so if I'm looking at data, getting insights about people and getting insights about human behavior, that does sound interesting. But it still feels like one step removed. Um, and so, with all of those experiences that I had, I started to sort of narrow down into what do I like, what do I not like. And I also spoke to a lot of seniors. At this point, I had kind of realized that, hey, I'm interested in um, art. I really like art. I used to paint a whole lot. Uh, I wanted to do something in design. Uh, I had learned about design as a field only in about third year. And so once I did learn about design as a field, I started speaking to other people who had done similar things. All right. And here's what I mean by I started speaking to seniors. Right. I reached out on Facebook, because Facebook was the thing at that point. I don't know if Instagram has started or was a big thing, but I started reaching out on Facebook, and I would just say, hey, I'm in final year. I want to shift into industrial design. At that point, I was thinking of it as industrial design. And can I ask you for some advice? Do you mind if I ask you questions? So, if any of you are thinking of whatever career path it is, whether it's the branch you're in right now, or it's different from your branch and you're looking for a career shift, just reach out to people who are just a few years ahead of you on the timeline, who can give you some advice. And then I looked up a lot of jobs, universities, courses, lots and lots of them, and I applied to 10 of them. I applied to I sort of realized that, hey, if I don't like I could do a switch without studying further, but it would be a lot faster if I did a master's and kind of switched immediately that way. And so I applied to about 10 master's courses and got into two, one of which was CMU, which I attended. And so I started, yeah, okay. So I'm running ahead of my presentation. Look at this. But yeah, I applied to courses. I also on campus I worked with a startup. Um, so this is some of the courses I applied to. Um, this is the startup that I worked with. It's a startup called Campus Connect. And this was in kind of my third and final year. Um, it was started up by a batchmate of mine. His name is Ayush Agarwal. And shout out over here to the people who give you these kind of chances and opportunities, because uh, he had started this company up, right? And he was hoping for it to be successful. And he said, "Hey, Aditi, you seem to know something about like art and design and this stuff. Do you want to come and build build part of the app experience for me?" Um, and I actually didn't do all of these visuals, but I kind of contributed to some of the stuff. Um, and so shout out to him for just taking a chance on me, because I was in engineering. I didn't necessarily know a lot at that point, but he took a chance on me and kind of gave me some of my first opportunities in design, which was really cool. And part of applying to all of these master's programs and part of doing these projects was that uh, for the master's programs, I had to make a portfolio. And doing these projects let me build that portfolio, because I had something to put in the portfolio, right? And the application process, to just give you a little brief, was very iterative. And um, by that I mean I just did it a lot of different times. So the same senior who had said, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" I said, "Hey, could you look at my SOP? Tell me what you think." And then we exchanged like 15 back and forths. So that's at least like 7 revisions to the SOP right here. Um, and that's when it starts to kind of take shape. So if any of you are thinking of applying to masters, keep at it. Revise a lot. Just keep at it and ask for lots of advice. Then I kind of took a few more steps here, and I went through. I did the course at CMU. I completed a bunch of projects. So here's some of the projects. Interestingly, I still kept the connection to electrical and electronics, which I'm really happy about. All right, so what you see is essentially that drawing is the circuit diagram for the circuit that kind of controls this automated painting process. So I was trying to really bring my worlds together. It was a fun project, and I can like share a link in a second if anyone's interested. Um, but then, as the CMU course was happening, the same questions that were on my mind at NITK came back up again, which is, oh no, at some point this course is going to end and I need to figure out what to do. So I started applying for jobs. I applied to lots of different jobs. I had a whole spreadsheet, um, in which I was like, oh, which company is it? What's happening now? What do I need next? And I think I got I got interview calls back to less than 10 of those 100. And I got offers from, I think, two, and I, accepted one. So those are the numbers. It's a big numbers game. You've just got to keep going through it. And I think that kind of completed my transition. So for now, you know, I joined Walmart. So that's the job I started after CMU, and I have since then transitioned to a very specific part of Walmart, which is called local theory, which is where I work now, and which is where I build those kind of digital display experiences and stuff. But I want to really emphasize the for now, because you know my journey has been maybe electrical and electronics engineering to design and innovation, but it's not this beautiful straight line right now. That churn process is constantly happening, and I'm constantly wondering, what's next. So kind of that's what my journey's been like, and I really want to hear from all of you in just a moment, what your journeys have been like. where you hope to, be going after this. So think about that stuff. I'm actually going to ask you these questions and wait until you talk to me about it. Um, and so I want to talk after this. I want to talk really quickly about just NITK spectrum, uh, and hopefully leave you all with the feeling that if there's anything that you are interested in, also starting, go for it. Just go full steam ahead and start off whatever it is you want to start off. And I'm so excited for whatever comes next. So I'm going to leap into NITK spectrum. So here's kind of an initial look at what NITK spectrum started out as. Okay, and to give you the context, if someone isn't aware of NITK spectrum, it is a queer resource initiative. It's a Facebook page and an Instagram page and a group of people, um, and we want to basically make lives easier for queer people who are either on campus or part of the extended NITK family within the alumni and faculty, admin. We just kind of want to bring the queer community together. And this page was started by a friend as well as myself. This friend's name is Narendra Sivraman, and he and I went to NITK together. So he was 2 years my junior, but we had those years of overlap, and it was the journey was really interesting. And I want to tell this story because I think it really shows you how you can stay connected even after NITK, and uh, just how far the NITK connections can go. So we were both in the debate society together. Okay, we were the D part of LSD, and through that time, I don't think we ever talked about being queer. Okay, but at one point after after college, right? I had finished college, he had finished college. He sent me a message saying, "Hey Aditi, I want to tell you something. I'm gay." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Did you know that I'm not fully straight myself?" And he said, "No, no, I didn't know that, and I wish I had known it during our time at NITK." And I wish that too, because I think we both could have supported each other through NITK, through some of the experiences if we had known. And so we said, hey, we didn't know about each other, and we didn't have like a queer community when we were on campus, but maybe we should make one, right? Maybe we should just start something. And both of us were, at that point, free time wasn't as abundant as it was in NITK. I had started working, and there was significant amounts of job pressure. He had started his masters, and again, significant amounts of projects that he had to complete. But we said, let's just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and let's launch a Facebook page. And I know that makes us sound like dinosaurs, because who's using Facebook on campus now, right? That's part of the story. But that's where we said we would start, right? And so what did we need? We needed a kind of a profile picture for the page, and we needed a cover picture, so we did that. And we needed a couple of posts to start out with. So we said, let's build a few stories, of and let's situate them in NITK, and we'll do like a story plus a drawing, right? So here's kind of the first one that we posted, which is, it's supposed to be, like, if there's a lesbian couple, or if there's a lesbian romance going on in college. We were just laughing at how it can completely pass under the radar of guards, because they would never suspect anything. And yeah, so that was kind of the first one. The second one was really cool. It was about, it was a story submitted to us by someone who actually is batch of 2021, so is still on campus right now. And Angelo is not his real name. Angelo is the pen name that he chose, that he wanted for the story. And his story was about how he didn't like being gay, because whenever he saw a couple, he thought he would never know what that felt like. But then there was an experience that he had which sort of made him feel happier. And so I think what we wanted to do was just reflect real stories on the NITK campus, and that's what we started with. And then we, yeah, as I said, the page is meant to be a resource initiative. It's a community builder. Um, we've done a lot of visual interactive content. We've wanted to make it specific to NITK, not generic and stuff like that. And we want to make it really inclusive. And let's see how we go on that. It's an ever growing journey. And we've this has been part of the journey. Okay, we started out with some of the stories and all of that, and lots of people started reaching out to us because I think initially Narendra and I were very hesitant. We didn't know how this would be received, right? Would there be lots of haters, or would there yeah, how would people receive it? But overall the response we got was so much positivity and so many offers for help. It was amazing. Like if you see here, someone's telling me, if you could use my help with anything, just let me know. And that's not an isolated message. I've gotten a lot of messages like this, and I'm sure Narendra has as well. And we also found that people liked our work, and they wanted more of things coming from NITK Spectrum. So we started putting our ideas out there. We started a Trello board. I'm famously pretty terrible at organizing. Narendra's a little better. Um, and this Trello board is just a huge brain dump at some points of all of the ideas we have, and we have a whole lot of ideas. Like this list just goes on and on and on. Um, and what also started to happen is we had lots of people joining us, right? So we may have started with Narendra and myself just putting stuff out there, but really early on we had supporters in terms of all these people who were messaging us. We had some alumni who got even more heavily involved, right? So they would if they were coming to campus, they would say, okay, I can meet with students here. So then we had a tiny little meetup when one of our alumni came to campus. And then there were some people who started also doing some illustrations and visuals for us. And then more people started to join, right? And specifically, there's some of you might know her. Her name is Aditi Rao. She just finished her final year, I think, this last year. And she kind of messaged me at one point and she said, hey, I know you all are on Facebook, but no one on campus knows about you because very few people on campus use Facebook. Everyone's using Instagram. You really need an Instagram presence. um, which which was a really interesting experience to be told like a couple of years out of college that hey, you need to catch up again. But I think that's why I loved that interaction and talking to her, and that's why I'm also excited about this talk today. Um, and the coolest part of that was she followed up that whole you need to get on Instagram with, and I want to get you there. Like I'll design your Instagram presence. So if initially some of these were my drawings, there's a couple of other drawings by other people as well. It now started to expand into lots of other people pouring their time and effort and creativity and energy into this. So she built out our first initial set of Instagram posts, and it made a huge splash. And not only did she build out the Instagram post, she really publicized Spectrum in a lot of campus groups and helped us have a campus presence. Before that, it was a bit more of an alumni presence. And then after that, another cool and fun thing that we did was we participated in the Mental Health Awareness Week. And this was just so amazing to me. Like it was a mind-blowing experience for me, and I wasn't even there. And the mind-blowing part was that there was this event which was happening physically on campus, all right? And we were painting like rainbow face tattoos and rainbow hand tattoos on people. And we were kind of opening up, and we were being very open about the LGBTQ experience on campus, which to me was mind blowing. Like at one point, that friend of mine, Narendra, he said that I thought this wouldn't happen on like an event on campus for the next 30 years. And so we have leaped like 30, in his mind, 30 years in 1 year. And that's the kind of energy that we got from, one day at a time, one step at a time, just see where it goes. And like it exploded. And so some of the other things that exploded into is that this year we've celebrated Pride Month. Um, and again, it's, we did our part of it. So we said we're going to hold a creative contest, we're going to hold a panel discussion, which went amazing. Like we had some students as the moderators, and it was awesome. But the way that people responded when we asked for collaborations was just incredibly mind blowing. So there's a few students within our group who just seem to be in all of the clubs. All right, and one of them is this guy called Darren. Darren just seems to be in all of the clubs. So he was in Artist Forum. He was in a bunch of the technical clubs. He was in some more of the cultural clubs. I don't know how, but when we said, hey, in our little spectrum group, when we said let's start reaching out to the clubs and just see who's interested, every day he would come up with, oh hey, by the way, so and so club wants to collaborate with us. So and so club wants to collaborate with us. It was just amazing. And kudos to Darren, and kudos to all the people from those clubs who signed on to do collaborations with us. The picture you see here, the trivia night, is a collaboration with LSE, and that's only one of them. Pulse wrote a whole article about how we celebrated Pride Month, and um, I don't know, it made me slightly emotional to read that, because it was really an incredible experience. And so all of this to say, you know, I think the next NITK spectrum, whatever it is going to come from some of you. And what we did, if you look at it like this at this stage, might seem like, oh wow, that's a bunch of stuff that they've done, and how did they do it? Well, the answer is we just went one day at a time. We did whatever we could, and it it really showed that people wanted more of this, and that the one day at a time approach can really get you pretty far. So yeah, I think the next spectrum will come from you. And I'm really excited to see exactly how all of you overshadow me by doing things which are way cooler than what I've done. And in a few years, I'll be like amazed and inspired and awed by the things that I'm hearing that all of you are doing. I'm sure I already would be. Um, and so I'm gonna kind of, again, just plug that there's a lot of other alumni on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Reach out to people. Anyone that you want to talk to is mostly going to be pretty helpful to talk to. And yeah, stay in touch with me. If you'd like to chat, find me on some of these platforms and stay in touch. And so I'm going to stop sharing now, right? Uh, and hopefully we can just talk about things. So I would love if, yeah, okay, I'm going to pause a second.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That was really insightful. I mean, like I personally resonated with a lot of things you said, because I mean, I'm also personally interested in art and all of that. And
Okay.
you've definitely done a great job with NITK Spectrum. I remember like this event happened when we were all in our first year, and it was a very fun event. And I loved the entire setup. So that was a brilliant experience. So
That's
yeah, cheers to starting all that.
Thank you. And with Spectrum, I'm so glad you had a great time there. And I wish I could take some of the credit for it, but really it's the people who are on campus who are organizing, and I'll let them know that you had such a great time. I'm really so happy to hear that. They pulled off, like, I think we found out about the event about a week before it was about to happen. And they said, hey, yeah, we want to do this. And Narendra and I were like, okay, but be careful, stay safe. In case there are haters, just stay safe. But I think there weren't really haters. There were just so many supporters, and it was amazing. So yeah,
Yeah, it
I'm
was really
really happy.
nice because it was really interactive, and it didn't give much room for hate itself, because it
Yeah,
wasn't very like forcing people into the idea. It was just like
yeah,
introducing to it, which is a nice
yeah.
experience. So yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions right now, if you're part of the Zoom call, feel free to switch on your videos or just like unmute yourself and ask. And if you're part of the YouTube live stream or even on Zoom, and if you would prefer it, please put any questions you have for Aditi in the chat. I'm sure she would love to interact. So yeah, personally, one question I have is that, again, since I am also, I don't know, just trying out design and like, because I'm interested in art, do you ever get the feeling that you maybe like didn't use some of your engineering education, or do you ever have like a regret that way? Like you studied something for 4 years and you completely switched over.
So it's interesting that you would ask that. I do have, like feelings of things I didn't use, but I'll get to that in a second. Um, Interestingly, I think I do use my engineering education to a good extent. Like, I don't think it's 4 years wasted, because I feel like that's kind of what you're asking about, right? Like, is it 4 years down the drain? I don't think it is. And the reason is because in my job today, um, I interact with a lot of people who are software developers and hardware developers and, different kinds of engineers. Because a product doesn't build itself, right? Like I'll come up with the idea for the product, but it won't build itself. There are my teammates who will be building the product. And so it will, I think doing engineering really gives me an understanding for some of the processes that they'll have to do. Some of the things they'll have to do to make this vision into a reality, and it allows me to kind of design a better product so that it's easier for them to build later on. Um, and I think another thing, an engineering background really gives me is the knowledge into the technologies that exist and how they work. And essentially that becomes my toolbox that I can play with, right? So I think if I didn't have an engineering background, if I hadn't specifically taken that TPSA course, I wouldn't be as aware of, like, okay, this is how gesture recognition works. This is the technology behind this. These are the capabilities. So if with those digital displays at the store, if we want to enable some kind of gesture recognition, um, I feel like, yeah, okay, we can definitely do that because I know there's technology available for that. I'm not as intimidated by the technology, right? It's my toolbox. It's my play kit of things. Um, and when you ask me about, like, is there, uh, did I ever regret, that, or did I ever feel I hadn't used part of my engineering? The way I interpreted that initially was, uh, did I feel like I had underutilized my time at NITK, which also, I mean, sometimes I'm a little hard on myself and I have very high standards for myself. Uh, so take this with a grain of salt. But some of the things which I wished I had done more of was just explore courses that I was really actually interested in. So I started doing that in third year with TPSA. But there are, when you're looking at the electives that you can take, the elective courses. So core courses you have to take, no choice, right? But elective courses, I wish I had looked earlier in the different departments, not just in my own department. Like, I didn't even think that that was a choice which was available to me, but it is. If you find courses in the humanities department really interesting, you don't have to wait till your final year to take them as chill courses. You can take them because you're actually interested in them. If there's courses in the physics department, you can go for those. In fact, I know a batchmate of mine who was also with me in Triple E. um, she took so many physics courses that I think by the end of it, she had done more physics than Triple E courses. And eventually, I think she's doing like physics as her whole thing now. So, your elective courses can really make a big difference. So yeah, I think that's one thing I wish I had done more of, even though I did some of it and I'm very happy I did that bit. So, yeah.
Okay, we have one question from Salman Shah on the chat.
Yeah.
He says, talk to us a bit about some of the moments where you had doubts about what you wanted to do and how you overcame them.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you about that. And Before I do, I also just want to give a shout out to Salman. He's a very good friend of mine, and it's so sweet that he's coming and supporting me here. And he's been, you know, one of those people who just has been so supportive of uh, just the things I want to do. He made me a better designer, and I'll tell you why. Because when I went off to CMU, right, I finished NITK and I said, yeah, okay, I'm doing this design thing. And I had just started my first semester of CMU, so I didn't really know what I was doing at that point, right? But I think Salman thought that I didn't know what I was doing. So and he was part of, I think, the web club at that point, and he would design these websites, and he would send me these websites and say, hey Aditi, since you're doing design, can you give me feedback on the design of these websites? And I would be here like sweating bullets saying, oh my gosh, this junior wants to know about design. I just finished NITK. I have just started on this new path. What do I know? But like he's looking at me expectantly, expecting me to know things. So then I would like sit and research things. I would Google like, okay, what do I need to know here? And then I would understand that stuff. And then I would look at his website and then I would think and I would give him some kinds of feedback. And so I think that whole process made me a better designer. So shout out to Salman. And he does a lot of cool things on his own as well. Um, so okay, and so back to his question. Talk about some moments where I had doubts about what I wanted to do, how I overcame them. Um, I had a bunch of doubts. I think in terms of, when I was doing the internship at Cadence, when I was doing the internship at Fractal, um, some parts of that internship were somewhat disheartening because, let's say it's the beginning of summer, right? And I start this internship, and within a few days or weeks, I'm like, yeah, okay, there are interesting things here, but I don't find this interesting enough to be doing it for more time. um, I think that was kind of discouraging, uh, because there was a lot of uncertainty, right? Right now it seems, right now what you're reading is like the happy ending stage of my story, and you're hearing about it at the happy ending stage. But there were all of those ups and downs where I really didn't actually know what I wanted to do. Even when I was applying for design colleges, I thought I was interested in design. Um, I didn't really know. And so, am I wasting a bunch of my parents' money? Um, what if I get into this? I still don't like it. Then there were moments of, doubt and uncertainty when I had to search for a job after masters, and I mentioned that I applied to like 100 different jobs, literally 100. It's in my Excel sheet and all that. And so think about that for a second. Applying to 100 jobs and only get and hearing either no or just not even hearing anything at all from the vast majority of them. It was definitely a bit discouraging. um, how did I overcome them? To some extent, I think that like some of those doubts remain, but I think I overcame them through, number one, doing things. So I would tell myself that, hey, I only need the one job. So, keep applying. And I had heard from other people as well that, this level of non-response is normal. Like this is the kind of ratio you expect when you're job searching. And so I would try and flip it and say, okay, so if I'm going to get one out of 100 jobs, then I first need to apply to 99 to get to that 100th job, is how I would try and frame it to myself. So a lot of self-talk, and a lot of support from my friends and my family. So my parents, I would be calling them and I'd say, so I got this so and so rejection today, and my parents would be like, oh, don't worry, like it's fine, keep at it, go eat something nice, um, apply to 5 more jobs. So yeah, they were super encouraging, so that was really nice. um, so yeah, I think those are some of the things which helped me overcome some of those doubts. Yeah. And I also have a question for all of you. All right. So I know there's a bunch of people attending, and I would love if you would put it in the chat. what are some of your passions today? What are some things that you are passionate about, and what are some of the things you all are interested in as career options, maybe, you know and I'm putting the maybe in there because I know when people ask me about, like, what do you want to do for your career, it was a very scary question. So I don't want this to be a scary question. Just, what are you interested in, and put it in the chat. Like, write it in the chat, so I'll say, and I'll say this for my future. So I'm interested in strategy. um I'm also interested in emerging technology, um, and I'm always interested in design. So yeah, um, if you all have access to the chat, please put in the chat what you all are interested in. Oh, okay. So Salman says product and technology. Rajna says computationally understanding biology better. And hi Rajna, how are you? Wow, that's fascinating, and that's really cool. Tell me a bit about the computationally understanding biology, because there's a someone who so my um major project, all right, was on statistical analysis of fMRI signals, which sounds super fancy, but we did less work than you would expect. um, and so what we did was we took, like, so fMRI is this machine. Is a I think it's a machine, which kind of analyzes signals in your brain, and it analyzes them on the basis of, like, how much blood is flowing to them. I should know this better, but I don't. But we kind of took some of that data and we did analysis on that. And so that was part of our major project. So there's a Prashant, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of scope for uh, you know biology if you want to take that up in NITK as well. Hey.
Hi, hi. So yeah, what I meant is, yeah. So like, there's a lot of things we don't know yet about the human genome. So, and since there's so much data, it's where machine learning and deep learning comes in, and computational analytics comes in. So that's what I'm interested in, because this is like literally life changing research. So that's what I want to
Yes.
do, in at least for the next couple of.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see what you will do, over the next few years. I'm sure you'll do some really cool stuff. So yeah, very exciting. And
Thank you.
Rakshita says she's passionate about painting and machine learning. That's really cool. And Rakshita, something I've wondered about is how one could combine painting and machine learning. There's a lot of cool stuff going on to combine them as well. So, for example, some people will analyze paintings using machine learning, or they'll do the reverse. They'll ask, like, an AI algorithm. They'll ask some kind of algorithm to make a painting based on some inputs. So it would be really cool to see what you do as well. And Shreya, you're interested in deep learning, design, and art. That's very cool. Yeah. Tell me a bit about that.
Um, yeah, deep learning, I guess this summer I picked it up because with quarantine and stuff, everyone's searching for online courses and
Hmm.
stuff to learn. So yeah, I picked machine learning and deep learning. And yeah, I found that quite fascinating till now. I do plan on trying out more stuff to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, art has generally been my hobby since forever. So
yeah.
that
And
sort
what
of like
kind of
branched into like some sort of digital art slash
yeah,
design. So
yeah.
that's how I do it in college, like balancing all the rest of academics.
That's really nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I think that kind of balance is important, right? Because you've got to keep some of the passions and the hobbies alive. So yeah. Oh, and I see Giridharan is giving you a clap. So yes, definitely agree. And next question for you. So we've got about 4 minutes left. I'll probably have to head to a work meeting right after this. But in these 4 minutes, I would love if you could tell me about what are some things that, you know, on the on a similar vein as spectrum. All right, spectrum is something which I saw. a need for, and I felt like if this had been there when I was in college, I I would have been so much happier with it. And I started it as an alumna because I think a lot of things just get easier to do when you're not a student anymore, and essentially the whole power equation between you and the university changes, right? They essentially don't have that level of control over you and your life anymore. Um, and so, what are some things that you all are passionate about? Like, what's a cause you're interested in, um, or what's a it doesn't even have to be like a social cause, just something that you want to see more of um, in college. What's a passion? What's something that you would want to start? Or even if you don't start it, because like starting stuff takes time and all that. If like someone else started it, you would be very happy.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, like
I asked
currently,
very
every
Yeah.
other day I hear about like a new club in campus because there's
True.
so many varied interests and suddenly people just come together and start stuff.
That's true. Oh, tell
So,
me about some of them. Tell me about some.
um, yeah, I mean, stuff like Spectrum, there's Continue, like
Mhm.
all this non-technical stuff that comes up. There's like
Yeah.
a lot of like creative outlets, even
Mhm.
like within the like LSD or like the stage things.
Yeah.
And yeah, even with the technical stuff, there's new electronic stuff that I didn't realize was a niche club in its own. I'm like,
that's
oh, this is a thing too.
that's really really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
That's
currently I can't
Mhm.
think of anything new.
No worries, no worries. I also asked a like super vague, broad
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
I mean, if anyone else has any ideas, please put it in the chat. I'm
Mhm.
sure college could do with even more clubs.
Yes, for sure. And maybe third question. How did you think this talk went? If you found it interesting, what did you find interesting? If you found it useful, what did you find useful?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the talk personally because, as I said, it resonated with a lot of things you said because I have very similar interests.
Mhm.
Um, I like, I mean, I personally like noted down you saying try a lot of new things because, yeah, currently I'm still figuring out what I want to do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oh yeah, one question I had is, I mean, you were also in electrics, electronics, which I hear
Mhm.
is a quite heavy course.
Mhm.
So how did you like find time to pursue other things without it getting overwhelming?
Well, um, I will put the disclaimer out there. My pointer isn't super high. All right. So I think my ending pointer was like 7.8 or something like that. So, fairly like middle of the class pointer. Not terrible, but not super great either. But I think there was just a lot more time than I realized. So for example, right, we are all, or we were all, uh, we all had the curfew, right? We all had to be back by curfew. And after that time, you're just kind of you're in hostel. And those were some of the best times, like those were some of the best memories. Because I just tried a lot of stuff, and that's when I did a lot of my painting, like at in the evening, at night, when everything is quiet, like everyone's asleep and everyone's quiet. I would do a lot of my painting at that point. um, with with the coursework, I think and I'm not endorsing this, I'm just giving you the facts as they were for me. um, I did a lot of my studying last minute. It did result in me not getting a very high pointer. Okay, so there are consequences. If you study last minute, there are consequences, and I definitely lived them. uh, but yeah, I think that there was, even if I had studied more earlier, there is more time than we think. There is a good amount of time at NITK, and I think that's good because you get to try things, you get to discover yourself and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you so much. I should probably like save some time to do stuff I like.
I'm sure
Um,
you will. It sounds like you already do. So
I suppose that's all the questions I see in the chat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I joined in late, but it was really great to hear you, and your enthusiasm is so infectious, and I think that was my favorite part of the talk. Yeah, so thank you so much for are all the questions done, Shreya?
Sorry, you got cut off.
Are all the questions done?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Uh, all right then. So Aditi, I hope we can definitely stay in touch.
Definitely, yes. Just
For
reach out on any of those platforms and get in touch and yeah, send me a message. Um, and
yeah.
yeah, before I leave, shout out to you, Prajna, and you, Shreya, and Adarsh, and everyone else who's organizing. Keep up the awesome work, and yeah, I'm excited to see what all of you do going forward.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Yeah. Uh, See you soon.
See you. Have a great day.
Thank you. This has been really great.
Awesome. I'm so glad.
So hello everybody, welcome to day two of Around Her World in 10 Ways. Our second speaker today is Dr. Anandi Giridharan from IISc Bangalore. She is a principal research scientist in the ECA department in IISc. She is also the chair-elect of IEEE Women in Engineering Affinity Group in the Bangalore section. So she has she's done a lot of work in areas of ubiquitous learning, communication protocols, cognitive mapping, and neural networks, and has also worked a lot for the advancement of women in engineering. So we're all very excited to hear from you, ma'am. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Anandi Giridharan, working as Principal Research Scientist at ECE Department, Indian Institute of Science. I would like to thank IEEE NITK Students Branch for inviting me today for this talk series. I would like to congratulate IEEE Student Branch, NITK, for organizing such events. Thank you, Aditi, for a wonderful previous talk. That was nice. And today I'll be talking on the paradigm shift in computing, followed by my IEEE journey. I am with Institute for past 30 years, and my area of research is communication protocol design and testing, formal languages, computational machine learning, and ubiquitous learning. You can see my department here, ECE department, and my garden, department garden, and also this is Institute on open day, the beautiful flower arrangements and other things. Yeah. So I am started as a scientific assistant and got elevated as principal research scientist. I am a senior IEEE member and also former chair of IEEE CIS Bangalore chapter and vice chair IEEE Women in Engineering Affinity Group, Bangalore section. Currently serving as chair-elect Bangalore section. And also I am a counselor for IEEE IISc student branch. I have authored many scientific papers and books. I have touched across many colleges, more than 20 colleges across, with extended IISc. And also I had been a keynote speaker and the chair for several things.
Ma'am, sorry
Okay.
to interrupt
Yeah.
you. Your
Yes.
screen has frozen, ma'am. Can you?
Oh, I see. Okay. Can you see?
No, it is still in the first slide, the paradigm shift in computing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, now it is moving.
Oh, okay. Can you see that now?
Yes, ma'am. We can see the second slide right now. My area of research.
Yeah, now is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay now.
Can you see my third slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think okay. Okay. I would like to discuss the ongoing developments will have significant ramifications on the way our society functions. Artificial intelligence is not new, but a very old profession. Let me run you all through certain historical examples from the and see how the history repeats itself. In 1861, the first transcontinental telegraph system happened, connecting across the country end to end, and it was a milestone for electrical engineers and formation of US. Pony Express shut down, which was providing mail service delivery newspaper using horses, actually. And in 1938, the live broadcast happened and by Orson Welles called the War of Word episode. Can you see my slide? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can see your slide right now.
The third slide,
Yes,
historical examples. Can you
ma'am.
see?
Yeah, I can see the
Uh,
historical examples, right?
yes, yes, okay. And the live broadcast was done by Orson Welles called the War of Word episode. The science friction that led to a long debate how media was transforming the society and how things were transforming. In 1969, the first piece of text was sent over the precursor of the internet, the ARPANET, that was funded by the defense. The first piece of text, LO, was sent. What is this LO? Actually, they were planning to send the login as the text message. But when they were sending LO, the system crashed. So they had to wait for an hour and then resend it again. So the first text that was sent was LO. In 1980, the expert system, all the companies were working on the rule based system that had an automated system, automation of things, and many expert medical things like mycin was antibiotic that was found out, and which it was also a kind of expert system. And in 1990, the reasoning system, the IBM had developed a deep blue system that won over the chess champion Kasparov, ending the human dominance over the chess. In 2000, we started doing better in perceptual intelligence, speech and image, and little bit towards the language. As I said earlier, artificial intelligence is not a very new thing, it's a old profession. So, artificial intelligence was coined by McCarthy in 1956 in the first academic conference that was held at Dartmouth University. Artificial intelligence is a trend that is going to shape the future of more or any other trends. There are multiple of branches of artificial intelligence, as you see in the picture, and out of which machine learning was one of the branch of artificial intelligence, which was for a while a forgotten child of artificial intelligence because people were more focused on the expert system and other research. And we started inventing more powerful computing, and we started having sensors, mobile phones, and other things that collect lot of data, and then advances in the machine learning algorithm like back propagation that allowed us to do more complex learning hierarchy, and also learning networks, neural networks, that created this explosion of relevance of machine learning. And now the machine learning became the AI technique that jumped to the limelight. So the exciting about the artificial intelligence is supervised and unsupervised learning. Machine learning allows us to solve problems that could not be solved before. Machine learning was able to give a very high vision and speech, and same with other applications like autonomous transportation, intelligent projects, products. biometrics, reasoning, knowledge graphs, and many other things that add intelligence to the solutions and also continue to create new opportunity for innovation and business. And then in 2012, the first discovery of artificial intelligence was the image classification that was done by a guy called Alex. He was working on a deep neural network and won a competition called ImageNet and built network called AlexNet. Now we call it as convolutional neural network. Image classification, what is inside the picture, whether it's a cat or a dog or a ball, when it is reached the accuracy of 80 to 90%, that was enough to start taking into the production. Then came image detection, where in the picture there is a cat, dog, boxes across it. And next wave was language learning. Started with a sentiment analysis like tweeting. Is it a good tweet or etc.? So now came to know that the compute model again flipped again. Earlier in mainframes and totally centralized system. Then in 1980s, we have micro and mini computers. And this is a distributed and independent system. But again, there was a flipping where central system happened 2 decades ahead. And this was called cloud computing with ubiquitous access to the shared hardware resources, lots of scalability, and people used to send all the data there. But later, there was refinement of this cloud computing, what we call as edge computing, a new distributed model. And edge computing is the optimization of the cloud. The only difference is we have to move the compute very close to the source data, that is to the edge. So it is amazing to see billions of devices connecting the driving traffic. Even more that it is not only about the devices, but it is about the data that is growing exponentially. We can keep generating data while uploading video, watching movies, surfing, whatever. The traffic is growing exponentially. So, for example, connected car, autonomous car, it can be a healthcare hospital where multiple of data is generated, finally generating absolute explosion of data. So we cannot just send all the data to the cloud and wait for the analytics to happen, especially in the real-time scenario. So what we need to do, see, this is the way it happens. So here is the cloud, and especially in the autonomous case, real-time scenario, it is the data reached will be very less. But in the case of edge computing, we are bringing all the details very close to the edge where the application happens, so that lots of security, bandwidth, and other things are saved. So now, and one more thing is the 5G, a new generation of cellular technology, provides a framework for scaling both connectivity and intelligence. It is not only the 5G, 4G also works fine, but it depends upon the application and also the requirement of the things. So now, seeing for some of the key factors shaping the user cases, the main thing is, let's see some of the user cases. Optimization of the service and the product of partners, media, especially telecom in general. Second is the real-time decision making. Already I have told you how it is very helpful, especially in the autonomous car, because the autonomous car will have a mini cloud while to do the capabilities for storing and do the computation and analytics locally. And so we need to take the real-time decision in driving. We cannot send all the data to the cloud and wait for the reply, especially in the remote healthcare center where life is at risk. So in this real-time scenario, we need edge computing. And also the latency we can reduce, and also alignment of the privacy and automation and other things, and reliability also. Yes. So what are the benefits of moving close to the edge? I've taken a case study. It reduces the latency and the network contention between the equipment and the user, which increases the responsiveness. Efficiency increases, enhanced security, scalability. So coming to the video analytics as a significant role to play in a variety of industries and use cases. For example, face recognition from traffic, security cameras playing an essential role in law and order. Several other types of analytics can be performed on video content, such as object tracking, motion detection, event detection, even flame and smoke detection. So, video analytics at the edge poses as both a requirement as well as the opportunity, especially the surveillances and public safety. Processing live video streams almost instantaneously at the edge can lead to a better surveillances and enforcing law and order. Supporting connecting cars as well as the self-driving cars, and this is a very important thing, and supporting self-driving cars, especially when you have to take the real-time decision. Enabling smart cities and IoTs, video analytics at the edge is a very important element to enable the smart cities. For example, traffic video analysis can be used to route the traffic in the most efficient way, and enhance infotainment services, especially in the sports as well as in some shows where we have videos from different camera angles at the event can be analyzed. Yes. So these are some of the application video surveillances, and especially the parking facility, automatic parking and detection of people, and also the traffic. And here we have predictive analysis that provides lots of enhanced automation, eliminates human from doing tedious jobs, smart weather forecasting, and future disaster response, and remove scope of errors. So it is very good, and predictive analysis helps in so many other things like traffic management, real-time incident management, and immediately reports to the concerned person. It's wonderful applications. And we have seeing the landscape of edge computing, we have Rakuten's fully virtualized mobile network now looking at the edge for providing rich media and low latency services. Verizon 5G Edge platform collaborated with the AWS focuses on a large-scale latency-sensitive applications. AT&T 5G focuses on the stadium, retail manufacturing, healthcare solutions. And coming to the hyperscale cloud providers and network vendors, especially like Microsoft Azure, AWS Wavelength, Global Mobile Edge, Ericsson Edge Gravity Solutions. So, and also we have vendors like Siemens, BMW, ABB, and system integrators are the other point who do the implementation and the integration. And we need certain technologies at the edge, that is the containerization. They have a stack of softwares that are helpful for that can be connected to the device, and some of the open source versions are Kubernetes, not bound management system, and expectation on the management and orchestration is there. where the primary role of the management comes into picture. And also main thing is artificial intelligence and machine learning plays a very important role, especially in the application deployment and also the application for reducing the stress and also network efficiency to increase and other things. Some of the frameworks are Cave, Torch, etc. Coming to 5G, yes, it is the latest cellular technology that provides a great amount of bandwidth, provides new unique capability for both the massive machine to machine communication and also low latency communication, ultra reliable low latency, and so on. And we have time sensitive network. So this is the latest digitization in the industry, where we have Ethernet based standards, and it is considered to be the future digitized in industry. TSN enables reserved bandwidth, simultaneous transmission of multiple protocols, quality of service, and low latency. So, what we have to see here is the research in artificial intelligence. Human kids, when they come into this world, they show different kinds of intelligence. They have, first is the perceptual intelligence. Once they come into this world, they recognize their parents, play around with their toys, and manipulate things, and so on. Then they show emotional intelligence. They cry, they smile, they recognize people, and they narrate certain things, smiling, and other things. Then comes a social and communication intelligence. They learn certain languages, they socialize with friends, and they make friends, and so many other things. And cognitive intelligence, finally, that is essential for passing important exams like SAT, GATE, and that out of hard work it comes. So now coming to the research, what I'm talking about, but research in AI has developed in a reverse direction, contrast to human kids. You might be asking, why is this? Human intelligence involves certain aspects of explicit theory having conscious of how we do things. It is easier to program computers on aspect of intelligence for which we have conscious theory. So cognitive task was programmed first, running a company, playing a chess, easily can be codified and programmed. But certain, there is no explicit theory. We do tasks unconsciously, like, seeing the outside world through the eye, thinking. All these are unconsciously we are having by default, which we are, it is very difficult to write code to all these tasks. Perceptual learning. So what artificial intelligence should do is what human did, learning, learning, learning. That's why the research in artificial intelligence is totally reverse direction, contrast to human kids. So in our view, the successful development of edge computing solution requires a solid understanding of user cases, associated deployment options, and application developer communities. So there are so many applications where artificial intelligence is used, especially in the retailer, the Walmart retailer, largest retailer, where they have Black Friday a sale, where they anticipate how what will happen on that Friday, that is responsible for their success rate. And so they use IoT and big data and machine learning techniques, augmented reality, to see what anticipated and how things will be. That was the reason for their success. And this, you would have seen Sophia, a social humanoid developed by Hong Kong based company Hanson Robotics. So Sophia uses artificial intelligence, face recognition, yeah, and she had watched more than thousands of videos to connect with human. And Sophia also imitates human gestures, facial expressions, and answers certain questions. Yes. So this is the way the communication happens, and it is wonderful thing using the artificial intelligence. And this is perceptual intelligence. So they reconstruct the distributed data so that we can see the image more points than the data. See, all these faces are not at all there, but they have been created. So there are cloning of voice and generate images. These are the new faces. You can see this cloning of voice. So this is very dangerous. So we should be very careful using the technology. And also here is the reinforcement learning, teaching the computer how to do the simulation using the machine learning technique, especially taking a backflip and other things. So easily things they train the computer to do certain things. And here is another example is computer vision, force estimation here that detects the human figures in the image and video so that one could determine, for example, where the elbows show up, especially in the motion capture and other things. So robotic surgery or types of surgical procedure that are done using robotic system, and it is developed to try to overcome the limitation of pre-existing minimally invasive surgical procedure and to enhance and lots of benefits for the patients like early recovery and less of scar and other things. And this is one more thing. Gauguin was named after the painter Paul Gauguin, creates a photorealistic images from the segmentation maps. So they need to just pick up certain things and can create the image. They have trained 1 million images on the DGX. This is Dependable Global Express that has a very high throughput bandwidth to maximize the neural network performance. Can click and draw objects. Artificial intelligence does the task. Wonderful things happen. And here is one of the important technology, a modern idea of AI powered by vertical farming, use indoor farming techniques, less of water, 95% less of water, no soil, no sunlight. So here is the technique.
Shedding the restrictions of seasonal weather patterns, overcoming transportation challenges, and significantly enhancing yields, the growing trend of vertical farming could herald the future of food production. One potential solution is the quite literally growing trend of vertical farming, a concept that sees the sprawling crop farms of old condensed into much smaller factory-like sites where conditions can be optimized and yields significantly increased. Facilities like
Yes. So these are the optimal use of space, and also here we have changing the mindset. What we need to do now: set, automate, re-engineer, and reimagine things. So so the main thing we have to think in a different approach. That is, instead of artificial intelligence, we need collaborative intelligence, the man and the machine together. So we should dominate the machine and by helping the machine, and machine should help the man. So here, threshold to human level intelligence, machine helping the people. How can they help? Improves the what people want to do, especially memorizing, prediction, interpolation, transactions. Then people to machine. People, how they help the machine. They have to introduce emotional intelligence, collaborative communication, extrapolation. So always the AI gives a superpower to do things better. People helping to manage AI create jobs. It's not that people are going to lose job, but there are wonderful things by helping the machine they can do and wonderful technology. So here are some of the areas of research. We can have machine learning context-based intelligent platform, radio access network optimization, end-to-end application delivery, network analytics and management, subscriber and service management. Everything we can have artificial intelligence and machine learning incorporated into this, and context based. We have MTech program in artificial intelligence in IISc, where the scientists work on various techniques of artificial intelligence, deep learning and other things. And another thing which I would like to tell is we have the other programs like Proficiency program. After your engineering, you can join various courses offered by continuing education proficiency. And we have self-supporting courses offered by the experts, and also extension lecture programs we come and conduct to individual colleges. And also we have QLP admissions, PhD and MTech programs and other things. So with this note, I would like to talk about my journey of IEEE from 2016 onwards. Can I proceed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I served as chair IEEE Computational Intelligence Society Bangalore chapter from 2016 to 18. And I have also served as vice chair Women in Engineering Affinity Group Bangalore IEEE Bangalore Section from 2019 to 20. And now I am IEEE IISc student branch counselor and currently serving as chair-elect Women in Engineering Affinity Group IEEE Bangalore Section from 2020. So in IEEE CAS Bangalore chapter, covers various theoretical as well as design applications, having all the aspects of the machine learning and computational paradigm, neural networks and other things, genetic algorithm, fuzzy systems, and so on. As a part of ongoing efforts, we usually conduct technical events, workshop, faculty development program, conferences, and we invite distinguished lectures by senior and fellow members and experts. We always aim to collaborate with a wider audience of academia, students, professionals, and also industry. And we ensure that society is diversified and reaching out to students especially. This event is one of the best examples that we collaborate among other societies overlapping. And we actually went across and created many student chapters, Ramaya, Reva, Oxford, and finally we have done in IISc also, the Women in Science and Engineering. And these are some of the events photographs where we went across. This is Ramaya and here Presidency College. This is my institute where we conduct many programs. This is SVIT. And as a result of the hard work, we got selected as the Outstanding Medium Chapter in 2019. So this is the thing about the award function. And then coming to the vice chair, Women in Engineering Affinity Group, I served as a general co-chair and organizing committee at the 5th IEEE WiCon ECE and also International Leadership Summit, and participated as a keynote speaker in technical events, chairing one of the sessions, invited as a chief guest for International Day. And one more thing I would like to tell is participated in Ottige Kalyona. This is an event, very interesting event that was proposed. It's a group activity targeted for students, school children up to 10th standard. Main object is to reach to the government or municipal school at rural area to interact and spread various awareness about personal growth. We had selected so many topics, especially the hygiene and other things, especially for the girls, self-protection, and all these things, and executed by IEEE and Women in Engineering members across Karnataka. And we have a program, simple. This is senior grade membership elevation for the faculty who have more than 10 years of experience. So senior members are high grade for which IEEE members can apply, and they can self-nominate or nominated by the senior member grade. So, and these are some of the photographs. This is the conference, WiCon conference. And this is Amrita College of Engineering. This is Bellary Institute of Technology. This is the International Students' Day. So now coming to IISc student branch, we have lots of hard work, and we have many chapters within IEEE IISc. And here we have many societies, starting from the signal processing and women in engineering, science, and other things. And here we have, actually it started in 1981, international conference that was organized jointly with IISc. And also this was started in 1981. And we have a EXICOM group, and we have many IEEE fellow professors, and technology area, which goes from the field wave electronics, signal processing, power energy, communication networking, and so on. And we have another program called University Partnership Program. The partnership allows the student branch to avail additional resources and support, including help in networking with local, regional, international IEEE groups, enhanced learning experience. So we have collaboration with so many other universities. We have done so many programs, activity. Yes, University Act program this is. And outreach program in other universities. So this is very important, like, any university can invite our students. They come and as a expert research students, they come and collaborate with other colleges and universities and conduct programs. And we have Japan Haba Fair, both cultural as well as technical programs are conducted. You can see this is a technical conference. It is co-located with Japan Haba cultural event and seeks to bring together audience, people from academia and industry. And it is open for everyone. Yeah, this is the first. And here the Japan Haba. This time it's going, because of this pandemic, we are going to have a virtual program, but we are going to surely miss that food and sushi and other things. And we have open day, and we have many lectures, and many demos are displayed, and also, yes, the showcase many research activities, and the institute is open for everyone. They have a kids zone also to attract younger students, and a number of experiments are conducted, and many lectures are conducted. Here we have IISc workshop with Maharaja as a chief guest. And yeah, we have another honor society called the Eta Kapanu, HKN. It is an honor society that represent highest value of professional electrical and communication engineering. And we have done induction of HKN at Institute. Yes, many programs are conducted. And comes the Women in Science and Engineering Affinity Group that we inducted in Institute. We had many programs, and keynote address, and also panel discussions. And all these ladies are from Institute as well as the Bangalore section. And we had the keynote speaker, and also from HAL, general manager. And also here we celebrated Women in Engineering Science Women's Day celebration by cutting cake. And we invited two speakers, experts from the industry as well as academia. And yes, we had an open day talk. Especially we want to have a Dr. Rajeshwari Chatterjee Memorial inspiring talks, where our students took up and gave lectures. Yes, IEEE President visit and SPS signal processing inauguration was done. Yes, these are the talks. And ComSoft technical talks were also conducted. We invite for the benefit of students. And I received the Outstanding Volunteer Gold Award in Women in Engineering. And coming to the Women in Engineering Bangalore section, won the Outstanding Large Chapter Award of IEEE Bangalore section, which was announced during IEEE Bangalore section AGM held in 2020. And we initially have Parikshaya, where the chair of Bangalore section introduces the event for the entire year. And also we have technical sessions and interaction between the various women in the society. We had an International Women's Day celebration at Infosys Bangalore. We had a technical talk followed by a lunch together. And also Women in Engineering webinar and industry readiness for fresh engineers. And also, apart from technical events, we also made other non-technical things like mask contests during the pandemic. Even the painting competitions are held. And we had several Women in Engineering webinar series. And I was one of the keynote speakers, both from the industry and from the academia. And we keep organizing many events like conferences, iConnect, then Humanitarian, and Concave, Bangalore Concave is coming up, and so many other things we keep doing. And it is wonderful journey for me to be in IEEE professional society. And apart from that, I would like to tell all the women that we have a standing committee on women in science and engineering. 8th March 1996, two identical resolution for constituting a standing committee for both the houses of parliament for improving status of women were moved in both the houses to examine and measure taken by union government to secure women equality, status and dignity in all the matters. Examine the measures regarding education and the women representation of women in legislative bodies, and also taking care of the women welfare. Coming to the DST, Government of India for Women Scientists. And after a break, it is not that they have to discontinue, they can come back. And so DST has made that option for the women scientists, started sometime in 2003, up to age of 50. They give certain travel and research funding also. And there are certain policy measures already taken by Indian National Science Academy, evaluating and enhancing women's participation in scientific and technological research, and Indian initiative. So as an IEEE member, what you have to do, why you should be a member. Technological best resource available as we have journals, conferences, proceedings, books, etc. online. Professional reason, main thing is networking. We connect to so many experts and others for help. Awards and recognitions are there, and there are certain career options, discount, internship for students. And what you get out of this? we get an ID card, IEEE Spectrum newsletter, abstract and conference information, email aliases, memberships, and other publications. And lot of activities, intercollegial and intra-college and other activities, technical lectures, workshop, faculty development program, annual symposium, and we have visitors, experts, and recognition for the college and the members, activities, technical lectures, workshops, annual fest, participation in other colleges and other things, support from Bangalore section. And usually they have 7 students and 2 faculty members to assist them. So become an IEEE member today and get benefited. During the time of pandemic, I started painting and have done this work. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a great talk. Especially, we learned a lot about opportunities that are present in IISc, and especially being a member of IEEE and Women in Engineering Society. Um, a couple of questions from our audience. Would you be willing to take that now?
Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah. So the first question is,
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Yeah, I am
Hello.
unable to hear. Yeah.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry, I think Pragna's internet connection was disturbed. I'll
Okay.
continue with the question that she was asking.
Yeah. Yes.
So the question she was about to ask was, how can BTech students and engineering students in general make the most of IISc and the resources that IISc can provide?
Yeah. Being a central university, you can have the
Okay.
direct admissions with interviews. You need not have a gate score. You can just come and take up the interviews and join.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, so the general admission process involves a gate exam, right?
Yes,
But
that
for
is there for others. But
okay.
being in NIT,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
have being a central university, you can take it up through the interviews. You have
Okay.
all the details on the website. You can log on to our IISc website and
Okay.
then you can view it. All the
Okay, ma'am.
details are there.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Um, just there's another question. I'll okay. Okay, yes, ma'am. Um, so how do normal people, I mean general people who are not very technical, make sure that the products that they're using, which involve AI and ML, are
Okay.
actually safe and secure to use in everyday life? What tips do you give such people? Uh,
No, they should have certain awareness of certain things. That's what, as I told you, we need to see that machine doesn't dominate the human. That should be taken care. So anybody with or without language, I mean knowledge, can make use of it. So it
okay, ma'am.
depends upon the application what you're using. and how we are using in a better way.
Okay. Okay. Uh,
Can the participant tell something about the inspiring women whom they would like to mention? Can I
uh,
ask some questions to the audience?
yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. Can the audience tell about the most motivating and inspiring women in their life? Anyone?
If we were talking about our personal lives, I think most of us would go with our mothers and probably the other women we have grown up with. So I think I would be answering for everyone in saying that. In scientifically, I would say Janaki Ammal was one of the leading scientists of her time, and at that time, when a lot of women were not up and coming in science, she came and she made a lot of significant contributions. And I think someone like her is a role model to me, and would always be someone I would try to be like.
Thank you. Anybody else? So you're answering for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think there would be someone else that would like to answer as well. Just a minute now.
That's fine. Otherwise, I would just conclude by giving a piece of advice. Can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely,
Sure,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So IEEE Women in Engineering is dedicated to encourage and empower women, especially students in technical field. Women are chronically underrepresented in the field of STEM. We need to break this stereotype and reverse the balance. Women in STEM and in leadership. How can we ensure women feel supported to follow their passion in a male dominated field? I feel education is very important to every kid, and women can do this to help herself grow mentally and emotionally. And not only in technical areas, but also in any skill development, and self confidence is very important. And we have to take learning to the next level. So go with your passion with a positive mindset. I'd like to conclude with that. Thank you.
Uh, Very well said,
Anything
ma'am. Thank you
else?
so much.
Yeah.
I would also
So
like to.
anytime, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
No, I was just saying we would also like to hear who your role model is when you started out in the field of science.
Yeah. Of course, my mother and other my sister. Yeah, very and yeah, many women. Yes, of course, the professional side also.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you very much. And any queries, you can always contact my email ID, and you are free to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the talk. Thank you for taking the time. It was a wonderful talk.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We're
Of
all really
course.
happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Hi, ma'am. We'll start off with an introduction and then move on to your talk.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Welcome to our last talk for the day, and we have with us today Dr. Devi Parikh. Dr. Devi Parikh is a research scientist at Facebook AI Research and an associate professor in the School of Interactive Computing at Georgia Tech. She received her PhD from Carnegie Mellon University. Dr. Devi's research interests are in computer vision, natural language processing, embodied AI, a human AI connection, and AI for creativity. She is the recipient of a number of awards and recognitions, including a National Science Foundation Career Award, a Sloan Research Fellowship, Rowan University's 40 Under 40 recognition, our Best Paper Prize awarded at the International Conference on Computer Vision, and a recognition on a Forbes list of 20 incredible women advancing AI research. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to interact with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys as well.
Uh, okay, so a note to our audience, if you have any questions, please put them up in the chat box or if you're watching on YouTube onto the live chat and we will get to them. Um, so ma'am, we would like to hear a bit about you and your current research work.
Um, sure, yeah. So I can share a little bit about the research. I think I had sent out. So actually, I would be curious to know if there's a quick way of people responding in chat. How many of you had a chance to watch any of the videos I had shared already? No, no responses on chat. Yeah, so I had shared a couple of videos, and my hope was that maybe you guys would have watched that, and then we can sort of just have more of an interactive session. But the kinds of things I'm interested in working on these days, it's a few different things. One is at the intersection of computer vision and natural language processing. So things like if you have an image and if there's a free-form natural language question about the image, can we train AI systems to answer these questions? Or if you have an image and a short phrase that's describing a certain region of the image, can we have an AI system that draws a box around the region that is being described by that phrase? Or given an image and a description, can we produce a score that tells you how well these two are aligned and things of that sort? And so we've done sort of traditionally a lot of the progress that we've made in this space involves collecting a data set, training a model specifically for each one of these tasks separately. And then more recently, we've done some work where you can have just one system that can do many of these different tasks. And so there's a common set of visual linguistic representations that the model has learned that you can use for many of these tasks. And so that's one space that I'm excited about. We have an online demo around it and so on, so you can try that out if you're curious. Another topic that I'm excited about is AI and creativity. And I think of it more as trying to see if we can use AI tools to inspire human creativity. So sort of essentially AI assisted human creativity, as opposed to just sort of some sort of autonomous creativity on the part of the machine on its own. And so we've dabbled in a few different topics in this space, things around music and automatically generating dance that is synced with that music, things around sketching on a web interface and what can collaboration look like between, in this case, different humans, but hopefully that would also generalize to a human and machine to collaborate on one canvas to produce something that is more creative than what either would have produced on their own. Things like taking in as input a description of of if you were to describe what your day was like, we can process that automatically to extract what the salient topics were that you were talking about, what the salient emotions were that you described, and generate these visual, abstract visual representations of your day, things of that sort. So yeah, a few different projects in that AI and creativity space. And then finally, most recently, I've been involved in this project that I'm excited about on trying to use machine learning to discover catalysts that that you can use for renewable energy storage. And the core idea here is that it is important to find the right catalyst so that you can store energy in a scalable way without it becoming too expensive and things like that. But the current process of analyzing how good a catalyst is computationally very expensive. It takes hours to analyze the location of each. For every catalyst, it can be So I won't get through the details of it, but there are sort of billions of possibilities that need to be explored, and each one takes hours of compute. And so that's not scalable. And so if we can replace the current approaches to simulate these atomic interactions with machine learning, then that would be much, much faster. And so you can bring down sort of 8 hours worth of compute down to a second. And then if you want to explore these large number of possibilities, that might be more scalable. And so that's been a lot of fun to work on with in collaboration with domain experts in chemical engineering and things like that. So those are kind of the three spaces that I'm excited about today.
That's really interesting to hear about. And yeah, I find the intersection between AI and creativity really interesting. Um, so I have a question for you in the chat. How far away are we from a unified model that can perform well across multiple domains?
Um, hmm. I think we're seeing more and more of that than I would have guessed. So, for example, very recent, I don't know how much all of you have been keeping track of sort of the latest things. If I say something that doesn't quite resonate, let me know. But recently, there was a lot of excitement around using transformers for language. And then soon, like a couple of years after that, people have experimented with using those for vision, for computer vision applications, somewhat as sort of a replacement of convolutional neural networks. It's not quite a replacement because CNNs were still part of that architecture. But so my point being that we are seeing more and more of this, where several years ago it was fairly clear what kinds of model architectures are being used for the different domains, particularly for vision and language. But we're seeing those become more and more similar, but we're seeing more and more intersections. So I don't know, I feel like I mean, these futuristic predictions are always tricky, and I could say anything, and you guys are not going to come back and check on me in a few years to see why I made the prediction that I made. But I do think there is a lot of active excitement, and people are actively working on this. And given the pace of research that we've seen in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years, across at least vision and language, there are more common modules where we could think of it as a unified model. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. That was quite interesting. We have another question. Creativity is very dependent on the process of human thoughts. So, in your opinion, do you think we can achieve creativity as we think of in the human context using AI?
Yeah, so that's a question that I tend to punt on. I tend to think of, which is why I had motivated by saying that I think of these as AI or technology in assistance of human creativity. And so, in that context, I feel like we don't need to assess whether AI itself is creative or not. As long as it's helping humans be creative, that's all we care about, and that's what we can check for. But if I were to address the question more directly, I don't know. I think it's tricky. There's a lot of philosophical conversations around this that happens in like computational creativity spaces, and when you talk to artists, and there's like philosophical conversations around this as well. Um, so I don't have a clear answer. Like another relevant point that comes up is authorship, right? Like who owns a piece that, like if someone came up with, let's say, the GAN, a new model for GANs, right, for generative adversarial networks, and then somebody else collects this large data set, and then somebody else trains that GAN on this data set and does sort of interpolations in the latent space and finds something that looks fascinating, and then that gets sold at some exhibit for a lot of money. Who should get how much of that money, right? Who gets the credit for it? Is it the person who found that image in the latent space, who then sort of actually went out and put it out in an exhibit? Is it the person who collected the data set? Is it the person who came up with the GAN model? The person who came up with the GAN model was probably building on someone else's work. They probably didn't think of an architecture from scratch. So I think a lot of even sort of non-philosophical and concrete questions like who gets the money, right? That's a very real question. And I think there's a lot of debate around that as well. So yeah, things like ownership and what it means to be creative. I had come across this interesting article recently that said that apparently even, and it was in the question as well, right, that this notion that creativity is something that's very innately human, It from that article, it sounded like it was very recent in the last several decades where we've started emphasizing creativity in the context of people. It's sort of post-industrial revolution where we felt like humans were getting engaged in a lot of sort of mechanical things on like industry, um, uh, what are those called? Assembly lines and things of that sort, where we started sort of as an anti-industrial revolution or anti-capitalistic argument. We started emphasizing that, oh, but people are creative and we do these things that are not captured when you just sort of put people on factory lines. And so even this notion that creativity is something that's innately human and is an important factor of how we should exist is a very recent phenomenon, apparently, as far as this article was concerned, which I found very surprising. So yeah, so there might be sort of these socio-political implications even when we think of creativity in the context of humans, which I think complicates this even further. So I know I'm not quite directly answering the question, but hopefully this is still useful food for thought.
Yeah, it definitely was. Um, how different is creativity in the arts domain using AI from creativity in technical domains like creating algorithms and mathematical theorems?
That's interesting. Um, yeah, this comes up in like people often talk about creative problem solving. And I feel like it tends to be a different set of approaches, a different set of researchers, a different set of people who are focused on trying to come up with computational approaches for creative problem solving, as opposed to the community, the researchers, the artists who are engaged in trying to come up with tools for the more art oriented creative applications. Um, I think a couple of differences that come to mind, and I haven't thought about this too deeply, so I might be missing something, but a couple of things that come to mind right now. One is evaluation. I feel like if you're looking at creative problem solving, then evaluation might be better defined because you're trying to come up with uh, an approach that will solve a problem. And in that setting, there often is a way of telling whether the problem got solved or not, or to what extent it got solved. But when you're in the art domain, just evaluation is super subjective, even for human art, right? Forget computational art or AI or any involvement of AI. And so evaluation ends up being a huge problem or a huge opportunity, depending on how you look at it. But so I think that is one concrete difference that comes to mind, just the fact that you can evaluate in one case and not the other, most likely. Um, yeah, I think that is the primary one. I was also going to comment a little bit on um, a lot of times when I hear artists who use AI in their practice, when I hear them talk about their work, they often talk about it as the thing that they find interested in interacting with these AI tools is the boundaries at which these tools break. And they find ways to convert those pockets where the system is not working well into either an artistic statement or an artistic aesthetic that is of value. And so they are often essentially poking around to see where these systems break and see if they can make something interesting around it. Whereas I don't think that if you were trying to use computation as a way of creative problem solving, I don't think you would approach it quite that way. I don't think you would be looking for places where it breaks and then thinking about what the value can be. Um, yeah, so these are a couple of things that come to mind. That is what the question was, right? Like computation in the context of artistic creativity versus computation in the context of creative problem solving, right? Okay.
Yeah, that was the question.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yeah, we have another question. So Nihal, do you want to maybe unmute and ask your question?
I also see it on chat, so if you would, I can also answer it there if you'd like. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the process. Nihal, if you want to unmute yourself, go for it.
Sure. So I watched your ICLR talk on CV plus NLP. It was interesting. And I would just like to know if there are any sort of data augmentation techniques you can use in such multimodal problems. Because say you augment one domain, that is the image, that might lead to an erroneous label for the other domain data, so the caption basically. So
Yeah, that is a good question. We have done some data augmentation more on the language side of things, where we automatically come up with paraphrases of what the question could be and use that as augmentation to throw that back into the data set. You're right that it is prone to errors, that we can't know for sure that the paraphrase that we came up with for that question does in fact hold the same meaning, where we haven't unintendedly sort of changed the meaning of the question. But we have a few automatic checks in place where we make sure that the embedding of the paraphrase question is similar enough to the embedding of what the original question was. And if that's not the case, then we don't add it in. But that's still not going to be 100% accurate. So I'm sure we end up introducing some errors. But we find that on average, that augmented data is still more helpful than, so it does more good than harm, basically. So it's a net positive. Um, yeah, and you could do similar things on the image side, right? Where if you come up with, so for images, if you do augmentation like left right flips or props of the image, you, for most questions it's unlikely that you've changed what the answer would be. With left right flips it's a little problematic, because if the question is what is to the left of the person, and then if you flip the image then the answer is going to change for sure. But those you can probably automatically detect when the question is asking about horizontal spatial relationships of that sort. But most other questions, that's not going to change the answers. I actually think that most standard image-based augmentations are likely going to be fine. The augmentation that we were doing on the question side is more prone to error, would be my guess going in.
Thank you.
I thank you for the answer, ma'am. And once again, if anyone has any questions, please put it up in the chat. Or okay, Manav has a question. Would you like to, Manav? Would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. I just wanted to ask, what are your views on us obtaining a single embedding for representing multilingual and multimodal problems, as you had previously highlighted?
So single embedding in the sense that it's a single embedding space, right? So there's one feature space in which these different languages and different modalities coexist.
Yes.
Yeah. So we end up doing that to quite an extent in the vision and language space already, where we're doing, if you're doing like image caption retrieval, then one way in which you will often do it is to embed the image and the caption in a common embedding space, exactly how you described, and then reasoning about similarity there. In terms of multilingual, there's been this work from at least from Facebook AI Research, but maybe from other places as well, on um, aligning data across many different languages. I think it was hundreds of languages, if I'm not mistaken. And in particular, doing so in an unsupervised way, where it is not the case that someone takes one sentence and they've given you translations in 100 different languages. It's just that you have independent sources of data for each of these languages, and they come up with a common embedding, essentially by saying that, by using an assumption that you're expecting, when you project these data points from one language and you project these data points from another language, you're expecting there to be some global alignment between them. You don't know what that alignment is because you don't have paired data, but you expect that there is some global alignment. And as far as I know, I think they were optimizing essentially just for that across different languages. And so with that, and what we've done with vision, what some other groups have done with vision and language, there might be ways of putting that together to have one embedding space for different languages and visual data and potentially other modalities. Does that answer your question? Is that what you meant?
Yep, that does answer. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yeah, go for it. Then we could hear you. We can't hear you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi ma'am. Ma'am, so I had a slightly more general question. Like if we see how research has evolved in AI, initially there was a bit more focus on symbolic approaches, and also like if we see the neural network phase, so most of the time was spent in sort of hand designing the features in say recognize if you say image recognition, image classification stuff. So things like sift and all, most time was spent there. And Later on we saw like via that after say 2012 ImageNet thing happened. So we kind of moved one level abstraction higher by designing neural networks. So those
Mhm.
kind of take care of feature themselves. We focus more on designing optimizers and things like that. So yeah, so and this has been seen like not only in vision, in language, in reinforcement learning also. And I had come across some work, some not work, basically like some articles which say that which tell about moving towards more general purpose systems in AI, and the systems that can leverage computation, increasing computation with time. Like if we talk about Moore's law, and so the increasing computation, the decreasing cost of computation.
Mhm.
So, in that view, two methods which scale appropriately are search and learning. So, learning and search, they can like scale arbitrarily with increasing computation. I I found it very interesting, and like combination of search and learning. I haven't seen it in many places, but I felt that it could be used actually very nicely, because if you see like AlphaGo, so AlphaGo is basically like was a combination of search and learning, and it scaled very well and it performed very well, although it was a very specialist system. So what are your views on this thing, like methods like this, or have you come across any work which has been using search as well as learning in this case?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thanks for the question. That is interesting. We have actually been thinking about this a little bit especially like the AlphaGo example that you give. This combination of search and learning, I do think is interesting. We've been thinking about it in the context of embodied AI, where if you have an agent in our case, it's a simulated 3D indoor environment, and the task is just navigating, where you might say navigate to a certain coordinate or navigate to a certain object and things of that sort. And if you have a map for the environment versus not, and so in these different scenarios, you can think of setting it up as a search problem. And so that's one side of it. And the other side of it is that we've done work in this space where we just brute force reinforcement learning without sort of any appropriate, sort of no significant inductive biases or anything of that sort. You're just training this agent from scratch via reinforcement learning. And so we have been thinking about, does it make sense to bridge the two in some way? It's been a high level conversation. We haven't done any work in this space, but I do think that's interesting. Um, as you were asking the question before, I realized where you were going with the search and learning thing. Another thing that came to mind is also things like neural architecture search, right? Where you were sort of drawing this arc of how we were initially hand designing a lot of features, and then
Yes, ma'am.
those have now learned architectures, neural network architectures for the most part are still hand designed. But there is work going on neural architecture search, right? And so that has an element of removing the human a little bit more from the design of these things. And
Right,
it
ma'am.
has an element of search that's relevant to it. It's not quite the combination of search and learning that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that came to mind. And reinforcement learning, in some ways, is a combination of learning via search, right? Where you're doing exploration and trying
Yeah, ma'am.
different actions and seeing how the environment responds. Um, yeah, I think of that conceptually also as a combination of search and learning, not in the specific implementation of something like AlphaGo. Yeah, those were some thoughts.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Good morning. I have a question. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I joined in a little late, so I'm not very sure if this was already touched upon. Either in your lab or at Facebook, are you doing any research relevant to the intersection of healthcare and AI, which you could possibly share with us? Maybe something to do with imaging or bioinformatics or something on those lines?
Yeah, so I personally am not doing any work in that space. There are some projects at FAIR that are in this space. One that I am aware of is Fast MRI, where the goal of the team was to see if we can use machine learning techniques to reduce the amount of time it takes to do an MRI scan down to some amount. If I remember correctly, the goal may have been 25% of the time or maybe 50% of the time. I forget the exact details. With the idea being that if you have machine learning approaches that can reconstruct images using fewer samples, then in the scanning process, you need to be taking fewer samples, and so the scanning can be faster. So that's one project I'm aware of personally. There's probably more, but this is one that comes to mind.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and other places do, like Google, I think has a whole, like a Google Health group or something of that. I don't know the exact name of it, but I know they have a lot of projects in this space as well. And I think DeepMind might also have something here. And yeah, so in general, there's a lot of work going on, but that's one that I know of. But
Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a more generic question. What got you interested in this field of creativity, AI, and intersection of CV and NLP?
I see. So I think um, in general, I've been interested in having ways for people to be able to interact with these systems. And I've and then I was in my head rolling it out that you might ask me why I'm interested in that. And I think that is just sort of a natural tendency. I'm not entirely sure why I'm interested in that piece, but I do find it fascinating for people to be able to interact with these systems and go back and forth and um, things of that sort. And I think I'm just naturally drawn to things like that. And so I think this intersection of vision and language was also that, where my background is in computer vision. That's what my PhD thesis was in. But because I was interested in having people interact with them, I started thinking about things like, initially it was things like attributes, where it's not natural language. You're just saying things like, find me a pair of shoes that are shinier than this other pair of shoes. Or if you're trying to search for people, then you might say that I'm looking for like the person, if like in a missing person application, right? You know what your loved one looks like, and you're trying to describe it in terms of attributes and trying to get the system to find it. Um, and so, yeah, initially it was attributes, and then I think over time the language just became more free form, and that's how I sort of ended up in the space of vision and language. And I think it's similar for AI and creativity, where I think I like the idea of people interacting with machines, and you just and it's also fun, right? The kind of projects you get to work on when you're looking at AI and creativity, they're also just there's a lot that you can do. They're fun projects. There's a lot of scope for creative ideas. No pun intended. And so, yeah, I think I don't have a very good answer for that, but I think that's, yeah.
That's nice to hear. Um, um, Ma'am, we would like to hear more about your lab. What kind of work do you do there?
So it's similar to what I described earlier. A lot of vision and language things, some AI and creativity things, quite a bit of embodied AI things these days as well. Like I was saying, the navigation tasks, so navigating to an object, navigating to a room. We've also done quite a bit of work in explainable AI over the years, where you're trying to find ways in which these systems can be more interpretable to a human. Um, what else? In general, my lab is set up where like the projects that we end up picking are driven primarily by the interests of the students, and so it because of that it ends up having somewhat of a wider range of things that might be going on at any given point in time. And that range tends to change over the years because we have different students over the years, and so the interests evolve. Yeah, I'm happy to talk more about the lab setup or answer any questions about that if you'd like as well. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that answers the question. Um,
I have another question if I can ask.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is like a very specific question and maybe a little irrelevant. So I'm basically an undergrad at McGill University right now, and over the last 3 years, I have changed my research, undergrad research, in different fields of AI. So is that a good thing to do or not? Should you like specifically stay at one place and continue doing research on it, or should you try different things? I basically did this because I am not very sure of what exactly I want to do, and I'm just trying out things before I can choose a particular topic for my master's. So, what do you suggest? Is that a good thing or not?
Yeah. So I don't know if I can have like a binary answer to that in terms of good or bad, but in like this is the usual exploration exploitation trade-off with anything, right? With life in general and machine learning systems also. But my bias tends to be that in general, the more experiences you have, the better it is, the better of a world model you have, the better you'll know yourself, the better you'll know other people, the better you'll know systems. So in general, especially early on in your career, I personally think it's good to be exploring. There's obviously ways of going overboard, right? Like if you're only exploring for 5, 10 years, then that may not be the best in terms of career trajectories. But as long as it's in sort of reasonable things, like having a few different experiences, switching a few different times, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I actually do think it's a good thing to be able to just have a more diverse set of experiences. So that's why, yeah, that's how I tend to do.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. This is a slightly non-technical question. I have been following your Humans of AI series of interviews, and it has been fascinating, learning about the other side of leading researchers in AI. What inspired you to start this series, and what exactly do you think comes out of it at the end?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So how it started, so in general, I tend to be, so I don't like small talk and I'm not good at it. I'm very awkward with it and I don't enjoy it at all. So I have a tendency to use sort of more concrete questions as a way of driving uh, conversations, even in social settings, at least in social settings where I'm comfortable. Then that is what I tend to do with like friends and so on. So I think in general, I've had this tendency of thinking about what are interesting questions that can drive interesting conversation. And it's sort of, these are questions that are not super specific, but they tend to be open to interpretation, which is what lets the personality and the thought process of the other person be revealed, even in how they're interpreting the question. But at the same time, they're not super vague where the person doesn't even know what to say, or anyone could say anything and that would be a valid answer to the question. So I think, yeah, so in general, I've given thought to questions and I have a long list of questions and things of that sort. So I think that's just a natural tendency in with which I operate. So that's the questions piece of it. The idea of doing this series actually came about from, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a series called, I think it's called Slow Interviews with Nilesh Misra. I don't know if that rings a bell for anybody. I hadn't heard of the person up until about a year ago or so. But someone sent me a pointer and I was watching those. And he does these interviews with various people uh, from the Indian film industry, from Bollywood, where he takes people away on like this farm and they're just chit chatting and just talking about random things, as opposed to like the exact opposite of like rapid fire questions on stage with a lot of drama and all of that, right? So it's like the exact opposite setting of that. And I think that's where I think I had the seed that, oh, it would be neat to do this with AI researchers, but there tends to be this, especially with AI becoming this popular, there tends to be this notion that, oh, these are like rock stars who are like a whole different species of people who do amazing work and they're amazing along X and Y and Z. And which is true. These are individuals who've done a lot of good work and they're good at what they do. But they are like, it is, everyone has the same trajectory, right? Everyone is an undergrad and you go to college and you sort of pick up these experiences, and they're not a different species of people than everyone else. And so it just seemed like it would be useful to not talk about work, not talk about AI, not talk about accomplishments and all of that, and just chat about these other things that are likely on the minds of a lot of people, but they just don't end up getting talked about at conferences and seminars and things of that sort. The things that I'm hoping it will achieve is one, just humanize AI researchers more, as opposed to sort of thinking of them as like these rock stars that are a whole other breed. And just get interesting perspectives, right? That when I ask these questions, hopefully the listeners are also thinking about what their answer to these questions might be. And then you hear the answers from these people, and that just gives you interesting perspectives to borrow in your life. You might get some tips that you might want to follow in life, try it out. It just seemed like it would be different. It would be different from the kinds of things you normally hear from AI researchers. So I think some mix of all of this. It wasn't a very well thought out set of, yeah, it's not like I analytically thought about it very carefully before deciding to do it. It just seemed like a fun thing to do, seemed like would be valuable. And it's easy to do these days, right? I just sent people an email. I said, are you open to doing this? They're like, sure. And it's a Zoom call. I record it, I put it on YouTube, and that's the end of it. So it also seemed like a low barrier to be able to do it. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Chandan has a question for you. Would you like to unmute and ask it?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Actually, you talked about the navigation mapping using AI. Like what I've heard is that like they take a lot of images and like if that objects came in front of that robot, and then it starts like navigating towards of it or away from it, like depending upon the controls. So is it like possible to integrate both of them, like giving a feedback using the results from CR models and all like this? Like I don't know if it's possible. Like
I think I may not have fully understood the question. So you're talking about combining two things. So one is, um, I can also maybe read through it just to see if you talked about using CNN models, like getting a lot of images of the. Is it possible to integrate control? Oh, I see. I see. Um, Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm fairly certain that, so for example, roboticists who use machine learning, I think look at this all the time when they're looking at integrating machine learning with sort of control. And so, yeah, I personally haven't done work in that space, so I don't have specific things to say that. But there is work that is going on in this space, and I think robotics might be a good place to look at to explore this more.
thank you.
Ma'am, could you tell us a bit more about yourself? Apart from AI, what are your hobbies?
Um, huh. Yeah, I, I mean, I've been doing some algorithmic art recently. Um, I like sketching and things of that sort, so I do that on and off over the years. Like there were a few years where I wasn't doing it at all. Right now in the pandemic, I was doing it quite a bit a few months ago. I haven't been doing it in the last couple of months. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly interesting outside of that. Like I like hanging out with friends, doing questions, as I just revealed. Um, yeah, I'm happy to answer any other, like any questions. I'm not trying to not talk about myself. I just don't have much to say in terms of hobbies. Yeah, it's the generic kind. Watching Netflix. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much what most of us do in this lockdown, I guess. Um, Ma'am, as a woman in a STEM field, have you faced any hurdles throughout your journey?
Yeah. So my honest answer is that I have not, or it is not that I've realized. So I've likely been oblivious to this. But yeah, all through my undergrad, I think there were three women out of class of like 50 or 60 in grad school at CMU. Again, it was, yeah, there weren't a lot of women throughout, right? Like ever since undergrad for everything that I've done since. But I haven't been consciously aware of being disadvantaged in any way or facing any explicit hurdles. Yeah, so I've been quite fortunate in that regard. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to chat about this more as well. If there are more questions, feel free. Like, don't feel free to poke further. You don't have to stop when I stop answering. But yeah, for any of these, so feel free to poke more. Yeah.
That's a good thing that you didn't face any hurdles. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, okay.
Archita?
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, I had a question. Like, it's not completely technical, but like about doing higher studies and doing research in general. So,
Mhm.
like specifically in like in the field like machine learning, which is, yeah, right, most of the programs are quite competitive these days. So like, what are your views in general or advices suppose to your students, like not like undergrad students, but suppose your some of your PhD students or some of your master students about not necessarily masters again, because yeah, PhD like is a quite long time, and apart from like just studying, there are a lot of other things that the person faces. So like in general, something related to some advice related to that, like, although like I'm not sure if it's a correct time for me to ask this, but like, yeah, in general, apart from, yeah, the studying part, there are a lot of other things like mental problems that people face during doing a PhD, sort of. So your views on this thing?
Yeah. Um, I think some things that I would say is that it's key to find what it is that excites you and what it is that you care about, and trying to do this in a way that's to the extent possible independent of what others think, right? Like, so because if you think most people want X and that makes you want X, then I think trying to avoid that is useful, because that may not be sustainable. Um, where if your primary motivation was coming from just having seen what other people seem to be going after, then when times get harder and when you run into obstacles, it's harder to be persistent and sort of pursue it further and go from there. Whereas if it's coming from things that energize you, things that excite you, then it's easy to continue even when you run into hurdles. So I think that would probably be my biggest advice, to think about, to try and like temporarily while you're going through this thought exercise, temporarily try and ignore what's going on in the world and what other people seem to be going after, and just thinking about what is it that excites you and what is it that you care about, and then try and optimize for that, right? Try and make decisions that put you on a path that will let you get there, that will let you do the work that energizes you, that will let you be around people that energize you, as opposed to ending up in situations and tasks and projects that just drain your energy. So I think that's key. Yeah, I think that would be my primary advice.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Hello, mom.
Hi.
Yeah. So you mentioned about the increasing complexity in the models using transformers, and if you have to mention state of art BERT, it's the model complexity is increasing, and I have seen some projects which are using this for biomedical applications, and doctors in these places ask for interpretability. So how do we account for interpretability in huge models, and how can we capture the model uncertainty in these cases?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the uh, sort of the explainable AI and related to interpretability and all of that, I think that space is still quite open. I've been a part of this research program that the government had funded in the US for 4 years now on explainable AI. And so this is like a group of, I don't know, 15, 20 academic teams, industry teams that are all having these conversations for multiple years. And we still haven't figured out what the right evaluation protocol is for something like this, that what does it mean to provide an explanation, and how can we evaluate whether an explanation is useful to a human or not, and how is an explanation different from just any other information that a model might spit out. Like when is it a valid explanation as opposed to just another prediction again, and things of that sort. So I think these things tend to be very um, task and domain and application specific, where I think a lot of these assessments need to be made in the context of where your system is going to be used, who are the people who are going to be using it, and what is it that those individuals seek when they are making decisions, right? And so, in the context that you were talking about with doctors interacting with these systems, it is plausible. I haven't spoken to doctors, but it is plausible that they don't need full interpretability through all the layers of the deep network, right? They probably just need additional sort of side or augmented information that gives them some confidence, or gives them some insight into when to trust the model versus not, right? And so if you set it up, if you view it as, if that is the case, if it is the case that they are mainly looking for signals that let them decide whether to trust the model or not, then you could look at it from the, then you can set up an evaluation. Right now you know what it is that you're trying to do, and you can try and think of ways to identify signals that would correlate with whether the model is going to be right or wrong. If these individuals are not just looking for when to trust the system versus not, if they're actually looking for additional information so that they can combine it with other things they may have tested and make sort of a holistic decision based on all of this information, then you would need to ask them that what is this additional information that you need. So yeah, my high level answer is that I think these things tend to be very application specific, and it's hard to have these conversations. It's hard to talk about these things in abstraction. And the key is to collaborate very closely with these domain experts who will be using your systems, and finding out what their current practice is, what is it that they will need from these systems, and just iteratively working with them to make that happen. As opposed to, for example, for a lot of the research that happens in explainable AI tends to be just AI researchers, computer scientists in isolation, hallucinating ways in which domain experts will want explanations or will want confidence estimates or will want uncertainty estimates, and trying to build things around that without it being sufficiently grounded in actual real use cases. I think the key is just collaborating closely with these domain experts and then going from there.
That was nice. Thank you, ma'am.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Feel free to put it up in the live chat on YouTube or on the chat on this call, or unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Ma'am, in your earlier ICLR talk, you had mentioned that an ethics and philosophy class sort of changed your perspective. So, did that affect your research in any way, and if so, in what manner?
Um, I think it has affected my research. So it's definitely affected how I think about things, and as a result, I think it has affected how I think about problems and projects that I work on. Um, this was somewhat recent. I took this. This was, yeah, just about a little over a year ago at this point, and so I think the actual actionable consequences of that are not yet visible. Like I have the projects that are going on, and yeah, so if you look at like my publications, you probably can't tell whether something has changed or not, because that tends to be like a lagging signal. But it has definitely changed how I think about things, what I think about. And so as a consequence, I think it does affect the kinds of problems that I think about, or the kinds of questions that I might raise in a conversation that we're having, or just having this added perspective. So I do think over time it will likely change the kinds of things that I work on, and things of that sort.
Thanks. That was interesting to know.
And actually, just shared, there was a talk by Shakir Mohammed that I came across yesterday, and I can, in the follow up email, I can send it to the organizers who've been interacting with me, if any of you want to check that out. But that talks about like AI for good and how like it actually criticizes the way in which AI for good is often used. And he has this very nice perspective of how we should be thinking about it, as opposed to how most people seem to be thinking about it right now and things like that. So I can share that pointer as well for any of you who are interested in these kinds of things.
Yes, ma'am. I think a lot of us would be interested in hearing that. So please send
Yeah,
it
yeah.
over.
I'll definitely send a pointer to that.
Yeah.
Let me just write it down so I don't forget.
Ma'am, let's wait for a minute or so for any questions. If not, we will end this session now.
Sounds good. I can actually also just paste the link on the chat, it is for folks who are on Zoom, right? And
Yeah.
then you can maybe spread that further if you want.
Yeah, that'll work.
If anyone wants to probe deeper on anything that we did talk about, feel free to do that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had another question. So, ma'am, I have worked a bit in this area, which is related to basically adversarial attacks in
Uh-huh.
machine learning. So,
Uh-huh.
I think around the first paper which came out, it was in around 2013 or something, which spotted these vulnerabilities in these function approximators. So, yeah, and these are like not just some characteristic of deep learning, not also in like the follow-up papers showed that this is inherent to even the most linear models, and hence that is prevalent in like all areas like NLP or RL or vision, all of them. So yeah, so this actually, and there have been many development in these sort of attacks, the way the system can be fooled, and not only in so initial work was like mostly in the setting where uh, like the adversary has to be in the loop, outside the loop also, if it is, then it is possible. So is there any work that like Facebook research has like done towards developing any sort of defensive systems, defensive mechanisms, uh, which maybe like we could I like maybe inherently we could make it robust, or on the top we can apply some layer, some sort of protective systems to defend such attacks?
Yeah, yeah. So um I don't know, to be honest. I haven't been following this line of work very closely. I feel like I have seen colleagues posting papers on these topics and things of that sort, like at FAIR. I don't know about Facebook in general, but at FAIR, there is a good chance there is this line of work going on. I don't know who the specific researchers are, so I haven't been following closely. But there's also this the deep fake detection challenge from Facebook that had a little bit of this. They weren't these adversarial examples that you're talking about, but these are deep fakes, and they have this challenge where one system generates these deep fakes, and then another system is supposed to detect them, and the hope is that you can then, in response, come up with better ways of coming up with these deep fakes, so that you can then build even stronger systems to detect it, right? So this cat and mouse thing that like happens even in network security, computer security, and things of that sort. So I know there's that effort. I don't know if there's something similar for adversarial examples that you were talking about. There is a good chance there is. I just don't know the specifics of it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I guess that's all the questions that we've had today. This entire talk has been really insightful. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here today.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for engaging me and having this conversation. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, ma'am.